My fellow citizens, my name is Joseph P. Firmage, candidate for President of the United States for 2024. I would like to take this opportunity to share with you some thoughts and reactions to the recent indictment of former President Donald Trump. Every president who's ever sat in the Oval Office has had to enter that office knowing full well that the level of scrutiny, both in every aspect of the agenda that they bring into that great city on a hill and into the White House in particular, but they bring with them all of the strengths and weaknesses and the uniquenesses and foibles and also the great unique gifts that each human being, I believe, has when they're born and as they grow up through life and inherit life's experiences and hopefully earn more than most should, and I trust do, to be able to even run for that high office, let alone win it and run it well. President Trump has a very unusual career history to have chosen that path in life. And anybody who does has got to have a reason to do so and a conviction that they believe is of great value to the nation and needed at that time in that era. And I'm certain that President Trump has felt that and is moved by that. And as he has now announced to become a contender for the White House for 2024, I am fully ready and engaged I expect to be engaged in professional and substantive debates on material issues of the present and the future for the American people and beyond. His indictment, in my opinion, addresses a question of law of a relatively modest nature. Nothing is above, no person is above the law, and I think it's appropriate to let the indictment and the legal proceedings take their proper course in a criminal case. It, from my perspective, appears to be consistent with a misdemeanor offense, and although serious, especially because it involves campaign finance violations, which all candidates and those who obtain and hold office should always not only avoid, but to avoid even the appearance of impropriety, as it's easy enough to imagine fire where you see smoke. And in this case, I choose to consider it relatively beneath the level of debate and discussion regarding the next election and who should lead this great nation. Should he get through these proceedings and proceed to a Republican primary, and then onward from there, I will look forward very much to rigorous debates. We know he has a very fiery personality and sometimes takes the low road, frankly, in many of his campaign tactics and in the manner of his engagement with his opponents. I don't expect to replicate that behavior at all, and I hope that he's learned a lesson from what's happened in this particular case, that it isn't good really to throw stones of a nature that are beneath and demeaning to the office of the presidency in the first place. None of us need private lives to be fodder for that kind of, mudslinging, frankly speaking, when we have such grave challenges, both nationally and internationally, all the way from the tragic violence slaughtering our sacred babies here in our nation, in our backwoods, and having to figure out how to deal with that very seriously and comprehensively and lovingly to the victims and their families, and remember them in our hearts, and develop strategic programs to solve them, all the way to the saber rattling of nuclear tipped nations in the Pacific, in the South Pacific, and near and around the Straits of Taiwan. These are very serious issues that must be addressed, and of course the central issue for our European brothers and sisters on any side of that conflict that rages in Ukraine, that foolish mistake of Putin. These are issues that make the discussion of the sex life of a former president to be interesting, but it's just not a question that I particularly care to spend any time discussing at all. The matter of the criminal misconduct on campaign utilization of campaign resources and disclosure, that's a matter for, I presume, the jurors of that case to decide. And I will respect the decision of that proceeding as the conclusion of justice in any way it may turn out. That's the way the American system works. But I will not use that particular incident, a general misdemeanor, as a basis for political attacks or wrestling against the former president. I instead choose to have much more serious concerns about his fitness to serve in the White House from my assessment of the 4 years he spent leading the nation. Those 4 years were tremendously fraught with extraordinary friction that I believe whether he intended to or not at the outset, yielded great discord in our great body politic. You can cut with a knife the tension across our nation by those who believe that Biden was properly elected, which includes myself and most of the American people, and those who voted for President Trump, nearly half of the electorate, and a great percentage still would vote for him again. I encourage those of you who have not to read the January 6th Commission's report. I think it was an extraordinarily well-conducted investigation, effectively, let's call it what it is, and a set of recommendations from a properly authorized representative body of our Congress. The two Republicans on that fine committee are exemplary leaders, and it was a shame to see Liz Cheney, what a fine woman, just a fine, exemplary woman, to be so strong in opposition to her own party and to lay the truth where it belongs. And I do believe that the party of Lincoln, one of my most, if not the most honored president, he was a Republican and effectively founded the Republican Party, and why I considered joining it for some time. The future of the GOP is at stake, and I should think that that superior candidates can be found by that great caucus, and some of the more extremists and frankly anti-constitutionalists that have made it into that sacred House of Representatives. Some have, in my opinion, come dangerously close, if not crossed the line of treason against our nation, as it has been revealed that some members of that hall, that great hall, may have had foreknowledge of the actual blueprints of the plans in procedural detail, and for a sitting member in the House of Representatives to have been complicit in an effort that nearly took it over and burnt it to the ground with our leaders inside of it is an abhorrent thought. And I have said it before in another communication, but I will repeat the central feature of my opinion. Any member of Congress complicit in and with foreknowledge of what was afoot to attempt to wrest control of that sacred hall and stop the counting of the votes for president with foreknowledge, that person should be obviously investigated, and if found guilty, removed from that sacred building and shown the proper door with bars on it as soon as possible. Now, I do not believe that the evidence is presented indicates that former President Trump had full knowledge of the details of that plan. That may or may not be the case, however, and it was unfortunate that the Republican majority in the House has brought a halt to that excellent investigation as it was nearing its completion of recommendations for us all to consider. All of that said, I believe that the January 6th Commission did an excellent job, and that the Department of Justice's interpretations of its recommendations for further criminal indictment or not should stand as they come out in coming days and weeks to come. And I, for one, will respect the conclusions that are reached by our Department of Justice in that matter, and leave it at that. I'm sure that the issue will not rest there, because we have a rambunctious and adventurous, unique 24 election cycle to come. And I look forward to being a vigorous participant in all of the debates and all of the proceedings leading up to the formal conventions and beyond, should I be lucky enough to have the opportunity to enter those debates. I fully intend to engage, and it would be a productive delight, frankly, to joust with the former president, and may the better ideas prevail. I will leave the thoughts for those debates for future discussion with my advisors and my team. But as you might imagine, American politics can be very exciting and certainly entertaining from time to time. And I hope to bring a good deal of intellectual rigor, a good sense of humor, and some great ideas to the debate halls to come. I thank you for your attention tonight, and I leave you with these thoughts in the interest of laying out my own opinions that stand in some contrast to other new and recent entrants into the race who wish to make a tawdry matter compete with the more important issues that we face as a nation. And so I, for one, will not be distracted by the ongoing misdemeanor case in New York. It'll come out as it comes out. Let's let the people decide. Thank you for your time this evening. May God bless you. May God bless the United States of America. We'll see you soon.